In this presentation, we will take a look at the purchasing options and purchasing process for QuickBooks Online, considering that 30-day trial period and emphasizing that 30-day trial period for the purposes of this course. Before we jump into the purchasing process, just want to give a reminder that you may want to hold off on the purchasing for the purposes of this course until the second half of the course, because for the first half of the course, we'll be navigating around with Greg Designs and Landscaping, which is the free version of the software, the practice version of the software that QuickBooks provides to users. So we want to go through the purchasing process up front because that would obviously be generally the starting point of using QuickBooks. But for the purposes of this course, you may want to go through the first half of the course before doing the purchasing process so you can take advantage of any kind of discounts or deals for that purpose. And those deals would include being able to get a student discount if possible, or talking to a CPA firm or accountant that may be able to give you a discount as well. We are now on the Intuit website. That's intuit.com. Intuit is the owner of QuickBooks. So once again, intuit.com. So QuickBooks is what we're looking for up top. Intuit also owns these other resources, including TurboTax, Mint, and ProConnect. We, of course, here looking for QuickBooks. So I'm going to go onto the QuickBooks item up top, or the QuickBooks icon up top. Now, there's different versions of QuickBooks, so you want to be able to make sure you pick the right QuickBooks file. We're looking for QuickBooks Online here as opposed to QuickBooks Desktop. So we're going to be focusing in on QuickBooks Online. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom here where we find the products. QuickBooks Online will typically be on top. That's the one that QuickBooks, in terms of the Intuit, will typically be emphasizing QuickBooks Online. So I'm going to go ahead and select QuickBooks Online. Then I'm going to scroll down to the options. We have QuickBooks Online makes accounting easy. And then we have some different type of versions related to QuickBooks Online. We have the Simple Start, Essentials, Plus, and Advanced. So if you want to just practice with it, the Simple Start, of course, is going to be the cheapest version, but you're very limited with the Simple Start. You're going to have the comparison down below with these check boxes down below. We see the comparison. So we have the multiple users. We have 1 user versus 3 users versus 5 users. By the way, before we get into this, we will be going with the Plus mainly because we want to be dealing with inventory. That's one of the things that's going to be a differentiating factor. Invoice adds some complications to tracking the inventory as well as recording the invoices. So we want to practice that, and therefore we will be using the Plus. That's going to be one of the major components. But also the differences here, you have the multiple users. You can have more users with the higher versions, of course. And then you track income and expenses. That's going to be the basic type of thing. So if you're in a service type business and you're just tracking income and expenses and you're not looking at inventory, then you may be able to get a more simplified version. It typically would be the case that you can upgrade without basically losing your data. Obviously, if you go the other way, if you're at a more expensive version and you try to downgrade, then it might be a little bit more difficult if you've been using things in the upgrade that you're not able to use in the downgrade. But the Plus version is probably the one where many companies that are basically small to medium-sized companies are basically going to need. Again, especially if you have the inventory, that's probably the thing that's going to push most people over. So we have the maximum tax deductions. We have the invoice and accept payments. That's going to be in all of them. And then we have the managing bills, and that's where the Simple Start starts to fall off. Essentials has the managing bills, and of course the Plus. Time, track time. So if we want to track the time within the system, and that can be linked to some of the invoicing process, we will take a look at that. And that's another reason we want to basically go with the Plus. And then we have the track project profitability. So if we want to track project profitability, then we would need to be in the Plus system. So if we had more of a long-term projects. And then track inventory. That's the one we're going to concentrate on here. That's going to be a common type of thing that people need to deal with. Some type of inventory, possibly some type of sales tax. And therefore we'll be using the Plus version. And like I say, if you have, that's usually oftentimes going to be the factor that differentiates. If you just have a service company and you're not dealing with inventory, maybe you can go by with the Simple or Essentials. However, here on the practice problem, we want to add the inventory, and the inventory adds that level of complication that's useful to take a look at. It's useful to understand. And then we have some other items, customize access by role, which would be in the advanced version. We have the import and send bunch invoices, We have the business analytics and insights. These are all going to be in the advanced version. These are not things that we're going to be emphasizing here. We're going to be going with the most popular, which will be the plus items. However, we may discuss some of these advanced features after the core part of the course problem, and we may go into them a bit as an add-on to the course. However, what you need to do to follow along with the major components of the course would be using the plus version. So I'm going to go to the buy now. And again, as I go to the buy now, remember that we really only need it for the second half. So if you want to take advantage of that 30-day discount, then take advantage of it by going to the second half of the course and purchasing at that point in time. Next, you can sign up with Google, or if you already have an account, you can sign in here. Now, note you may already have an account if you have something like TurboTax or some other software that is owned by Intuit. Once you have your account set up, then of course you have your payment options that would need to be entered. Next, we'll go through a short type of interview process to give some information to Intuit about the business. So number 1 says, tell us about your business. Everyone needs something a little different from QuickBooks. Let's get to know you. Let's get to know what you need so we can tailor things to fit you. You can change your info anytime in the settings. So what they're saying here is give us a little bit of information about the business so we can help set up the minimum components of the business. This is not set in stone, so if you don't even know the business name, you can convert it. Now, if you're working with the problem, and again, you would want to work with the problem on the second half of the course and set up this QuickBooks file for it, we're going to be naming the QuickBooks file Get Great Guitars. We're going to be selling guitars and having things like guitar lessons and service items. So we'll have both inventory and service items. So this is what I'm going to tell Intuit here, the owner of QuickBooks. And then if you had an option, I've been using QuickBooks Desktop and want to bring in my data. So for example, there's two major primary versions of QuickBooks, a desktop version, then the online version, and then you have different tiers within those two sections. So if you were using the desktop and wanted to transfer to the online, it's a bit of a complicated process, not too difficult, but they want to know, are you transferring the data in? We are not going to be for our practice problem purposes. We're going to start a new QuickBooks file from scratch and then start entering the data from basically day 1, setting up the whole thing as we go in the second half of the course once we work with our practice problem. So I'm going to say next. Number 2 says, what would you like to do in QuickBooks? This is just to get you started. You can always do more. So we want to send and track invoices, organize your expenses, manage your inventory, track your retail sales, track your bills, track your sales tax, pay your employees, maybe, because we're going to have to set up payroll for that, and that's typically an add-on, and track hours. I'm just going to go ahead and check them all off here, and I'm going to say next. Number 3 says, what's your role at your business? So we'll use this info to help personalize your QuickBooks. You can always change it later in the settings. So are we the accountant within the business, employee, the bookkeeper, or the owner? Now, obviously, we may have multiple roles within the organization. I'm going to say we're the owner for the purposes of our practice problem. Do you have an accountant or bookkeeper right now? And I'm going to go ahead and say, yes, someone helps me with the bookkeeping. So we're going to put the bookkeeping in ourselves. But then typically the setup oftentimes for small businesses is you might do some of the bookkeeping yourself and then have a CPA firm that would help you with complex items on the bookkeeping and possibly, of course, tax preparation at year end. So I'm going to say, yes, someone helps me. And then I'm going to go to all set. And then you might get some other added kind of pop-ups, but that's basically it. So we have the welcome screen. Welcome, Get Great Guitars. That's the name of our business here. This 30-second tour will help you get down the business on QuickBooks. So let's go. We'll take the tour real quick. So we have the Get Help, watch video tutorials, find answers to help articles, connect with the QuickBooks reports. So we can go into the help screen to kind of navigate and help us to navigate through. We're going to be practicing navigation in the first half of the course. Get set up. Here's a great place to start. Get the jobs you need to do right away. So we have that information. I'm going to go start here. And then get business funding when you need it. So this is basically a commercial right now. So $5,000 to $100,000 with terms of 12 months. We're not going to get business funding right now. So I'm going to close that back up. And there we have it. So now we're on the front screen. We're all ready to go. We have a fresh new QuickBooks Online file that we can start working with. Now, again, the first half of the course, we're going to be working with the free version. of QuickBooks, the practice version, which already has numbers in it. If we were to set up a new setup such as this, there wouldn't be any numbers in it, and we would have to do basically the data input. We can't really practice looking at reports yet because there's no data in it. So that's why the practice version is ideal for that. You can also use your company file if you have another company file that has data in it, but probably best to work with us as we work through the practice file because the numbers will be the same. And then in the second half of the course, you'd really like this nice, fresh QuickBooks file if possible, so that you can actually fill in and start a company from scratch and enter the data from scratch and then go forward with the data input as we will.